When Evelyn Mercer was 7 years old, she learned that silence could become a person's permanent shape. At family dinners, her cousin sat at the center of the table while she occupied the folding chair near the laundry room door. During Christmas mornings, the expensive gifts were distributed in neat towers, while hers arrived in thin bags with pharmacy tissue paper. Nobody openly hated her. That would have required effort. Instead, the Mercers perfected exclusion through neglect. Her father, Daniel, often called her sensitive whenever she asked why things were different. Her mother, Leanne, preferred pretending no unfairness existed at all. Her older brother, Mason, inherited attention naturally, like breathing. Evelyn inherited apologies. "Your grandparents spoil you enough," her Aunt Patricia would say whenever Evelyn looked disappointed. It wasn't true. Her grandparents merely acknowledged her existence. That alone made the rest of the family resentful. By the time she reached 24, Evelyn had become an expert at invisibility. She worked long shifts at a downtown bookstore cafe, rented a narrow apartment with stained ceilings, and ignored family group chats unless absolutely necessary. Most conversations with relatives ended with subtle insults disguised as concern. "You still working there? You should really think bigger. You're not getting younger." Every sentence carried the same hidden message. You are the least successful Mercer. Ironically, the only people who never treated her that way were her grandparents, Walter and June Mercer. Walter had once been a feared real estate developer who built half the commercial district in their city during the 70s. June had been elegant, sharp-tongued, and observant enough to see through every lie told at family gatherings. When Evelyn visited them, she was fed properly, asked questions, remembered. Those visits became her refuge. While the rest of the family competed for Walter's approval like starving animals, Evelyn sat quietly in the garden helping June trim roses or listening to Walter complain about politics and contractors. "You know why they're all miserable?" Walter once asked her over tea. Evelyn shrugged. "They think inheritance is love." He laughed softly into his cup. "They'll learn." At the time, she thought nothing of it. The first death came in winter. June passed quietly in her sleep during a heavy snowstorm. The funeral resembled theatre more than grief. Patricia sobbed dramatically into embroidered handkerchiefs while checking her phone between tears. Mason gave speeches about family unity, despite not visiting his grandmother once in 8 months. Daniel wore a pained expression that disappeared whenever someone important approached him. Evelyn stood near the back in a black coat, numb and exhausted. Only Walter looked genuinely destroyed. Within 6 months, he deteriorated rapidly. The sharpness remained in his eyes, but his body failed him piece by piece. Nurses rotated through the estate. Doctors came and went. Relatives suddenly visited weekly, carrying flowers and fake warmth. Evelyn visited because she wanted to. The others visited because they smelled money. Walter noticed. One rainy afternoon, he motioned Evelyn closer to his bedside. "They think I don't see what they are," he rasped. "You should rest," she said gently. "I am resting. I'm dying." She flinched. His thin hand reached for hers. "You're the only Mercer who never asked me for anything." Evelyn looked down. "That's because it's your money." A weak smile crossed his face. "No, it's because you still have a soul." 3 weeks later, Walter Mercer died, and the family war began before the body was cold. The reading of the will took place inside a polished downtown law office overlooking the river. Rain streaked the windows while the Mercers filled the conference room in expensive black clothing. Tension pulsed beneath every conversation. Patricia whispered to her husband about lake properties. Mason joked quietly about finally paying off debt. Daniel sat stiffly with folded arms, already calculating numbers in his head. Evelyn nearly didn't attend at all. She assumed small portions would be divided evenly among everyone. The attorney, Mr. Holloway, adjusted his glasses and opened the file. Walter Mercer's estate was massive. Commercial buildings, investment portfolios, multiple properties, private accounts, enough wealth to alter generations permanently. As figures were mentioned, breathing changed around the room. Greed became physical. Then came the final section. Mr. Holloway cleared his throat carefully. The remainder of the estate, including Mercer Holdings' majority shares, the lake house, and liquid assets, totaling approximately $38 million. Everyone leaned forward. "Shall pass solely to my granddaughter, Evelyn June Mercer." Silence. Real silence. Heavy enough to hear rain striking glass. Evelyn blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" Patricia laughed first. A sharp, ugly sound. "There's no way." Mr. Holloway continued calmly. "There is an attached personal statement from Mr. Mercer." He unfolded another page. Walter's recorded words felt almost alive in the room. "To my family, most of you loved my money more than you loved me. I was useful while breathing and valuable while dying. Evelyn was the only one who visited without wanting something in return. The rest of you have spent years teaching her she was unwanted. Consider this my final lesson to all of you. You should have treated her better when she had nothing." The room detonated. Patricia stood up immediately. "This is manipulation." Mason slammed his palm on the table. "She turned him against us." Daniel stared at Evelyn with something colder than anger. Betrayal, as though she had stolen something naturally belonging to him. "You knew?" he demanded. "I swear I didn't." "Oh, bullshit," Mason snapped. Lyanne looked pale. "You could share it," she said quietly, almost desperately. "We're family." Evelyn felt sick, not because of the inheritance, because for the first time in her life, every person in the room was looking directly at her. The next month destroyed any illusion that money improved relationships. Her phone became a weapon. Calls, texts, emails, some pleading, some furious, some openly threatening. Patricia claimed Walter had been manipulated in old age and promised legal action. Mason accused her publicly online of financial abuse. Daniel alternated between guilt and rage, reminding her how much her parents had sacrificed. Sacrificed what, Evelyn wondered? Neglect? Humiliation? Indifference? One night Daniel appeared outside her apartment unannounced. She opened the door cautiously. He looked exhausted, damp from rain, older than she remembered. "You're really doing this?" Evelyn frowned. "Doing what?" "Keeping all of it." The apartment suddenly felt very small. "You all ignored me for years." "That's not true," she laughed bitterly. "It shocked both of them. You forgot birthdays, Dad. That's ridiculous. You called me by Mason's name for almost an entire summer." He looked away. "You were always distant." "No," she whispered. "I learned to stop expecting anything." Silence stretched. Then his expression hardened again. "You could help this family." "I could." "But you won't." Evelyn studied him carefully. For the first time, she understood something terrible. They did not feel guilty. They felt entitled. The inheritance had rewritten history inside their minds. Suddenly, every ignored call, every insult, every exclusion transformed into sacrifices she now owed repayment for. "You only see me now because I'm valuable," she said. "That's unfair." "Is it?" His jaw tightened. "You've changed." "No," Evelyn replied softly. "Now you can finally see me." She closed the door. He never forgave her for it. Wealth altered her life quickly. The tiny apartment disappeared. The bookstore job ended. Lawyers, advisors, accountants, and business managers flooded her schedule. She inherited not only money, but control of Mercer Holdings itself. Executives twice her age expected incompetence. Instead, they discovered someone observant, patient, and impossible to intimidate. Walter had taught her more than anyone realized. Within a year, she restructured failing developments, cut predatory contracts, and modernized the company image. Financial magazines began calling her the Unexpected Mercer. Her family hated every article, especially Mason. His construction business collapsed after years of reckless spending. Patricia lost a lawsuit against the estate and nearly bankrupted herself in legal fees. Daniel's investments failed during a market downturn. At every family gathering, whispered conversations followed Evelyn like smoke. "She ruined us. She turned him against everyone. She could have helped." Nobody acknowledged their own decisions. It became easier to blame her. After all, she possessed the fortune now. That made her responsible for everyone else's suffering in their minds. The final fracture came during Thanksgiving 2 years later. Against her better judgment, Evelyn attended. The Mercer house looked smaller somehow, faded, bitter. Dinner began politely enough. Then Patricia started drinking. "That money poisoned this family," she muttered loudly. Evelyn continued eating. Mason scoffed. "No, she poisoned it." Lyanne remained silent. Daniel stared into his wine. "You all hated me before the inheritance," Evelyn said calmly. "Oh, please, you always played victim." "I was a victim." The table froze. Years of restraint cracked open quietly. "You made me feel unwanted my entire life. Every holiday, every birthday, every conversation." Nobody abused you, Mason snapped. You didn't have to. Her voice remained frighteningly composed. That's the worst part. None of you even noticed what you were doing. Daniel finally spoke. We did our best. No, Evelyn said. You did what was easiest. Nobody answered. Outside, snow drifted softly beyond the windows. Evelyn looked around the table at the resentment, the envy, the desperate conviction that her existence had somehow robbed them of a better life. And she realized something freeing. They would never love her. Not poor. Not rich. Not ever. The inheritance had not created the fracture. It had only exposed it. She stood slowly. I spent most of my life wanting this family to care about me. Her coat slid over her shoulders. I don't anymore. Then she walked out into the snow. Nobody stopped her. Years later, journalists would still write stories about Evelyn Mercer, the overlooked granddaughter who inherited an empire, the mysterious heiress estranged from her family, the cold businesswoman who refused reconciliation. People loved dramatic narratives, but the truth was smaller and sadder than gossip. A lonely girl had once sat at the edge of dinner tables hoping someone would notice her. Then one old man finally did, and everyone else decided to hate her for it. Thank you for listening to and watching Big Chris Stories. Before you go, leave a comment and let us know where you're watching from. And if you enjoyed this story, please take a moment to subscribe, like the channel, and hit that notification bell so you'll be reminded whenever new videos and stories are published. Until next time, thank you for being here.